Maybe I should have wrote this down first. Hey guys! Today I'm kicking off my Halloween series of videos. For the month of October, I'm going to be posting 2 times a week on Tuesdays and on Fridays. I'm not quite sure if I'm going to keep up twice a week after this. It might be a little much for me, but Halloween is my favorite season, so I really wanted to make sure that I, got to embrace that. Being chronically ill, I don't do much. I don't have a lot of friends that live here, so I don't go to parties. I don't do any of that, so this is a great way for me to channel all of my spooky energy into the holiday that I like the most. Today's video is going to be all about my favorite horror movies. They're not in a particular order because I really couldn't pick a favorite even if I wanted to. I'm going to read the synopsis of the movie in case you're interested and want to check it out if you've never seen it before. So let's just dive right in. The first movie on my list is Pet Sematary, both the original and the remake. About this movie, Dr. Lewis Creed and his wife Rachel relocate from Boston to rural Maine with their 2 young children. The couple soon discover a mysterious burial ground hidden deep in the woods near their new home. When tragedy strikes, Lewis turns to his neighbor, setting off a chain reaction that unleashes an unspeakable evil with horrific consequences. This was one of the first horror movies that I ever saw. Staying the night at a friend's house when we watched it, and it has continued to be one of my favorites. I was really excited to see that they remade this movie, and it came out right before my birthday, but I ended up being sick again, so I didn't make it there. I was a little nervous because sometimes remakes are just not good at all, but I actually like the remake a little more than the original. I don't want to spoil anything, but they took a few things from the original movie and spun it in a slightly new direction, and I think it really worked. Another thing, if you weren't aware, this is based on a Stephen King novel, which is also excellent. I really, really enjoy it. He's a fantastic author. Moving on. Next, I have the original Halloween, and then the newest one they made that's also just called Halloween. I will read the synopsis for the original Halloween that I think came out in the 70s. Yes, 1978 was the original one. Okay. 15 years after murdering his sister on Halloween night in 1963, Michael Myers escapes from a mental hospital and returns to his small town of Haddonfield, Illinois to kill again. The newest Halloween from 2018, Laurie Strode confronts her longtime foe Michael Myers, the masked figure who has haunted her since she narrowly escaped his killing spree on Halloween night 4 decades ago. So I like both movies because they're classic slasher movies. They aren't overly gory. They don't try to go into too much detail about the plot. Why did Michael kill his sister? Why does he kill other people? I don't know. He's just crazy. He doesn't speak. He doesn't try to explain why he's doing anything. And I think that's something that's kind of missing from movies now. Horror movies now, I think, try a little too hard to give you a reason. Sometimes there's just not a reason, and I think that's scarier than there being a reason. Trauma or whatever, yeah, that's kind of spooky, but literally not knowing is more scary because the unknown is super spooky. So that's why both of these movies have made it onto my favorites list. Okay, next is Children of the Corn. I watch this movie every Halloween. I'm not sure why that started. This movie came out in 1984. As physician Bert Stanton and his girlfriend Vicky drive across the Midwest to his new job, their trip comes to a sudden halt when they encounter the body of a murdered boy in the road. In trying to contact the authorities, Bert and Vicky wander into a small town populated only by children, followers of a sinister young preacher, Isaac Kroner. Soon the couple is fleeing the youthful fanatics who want to sacrifice them to their demon entity. deity. Demon deity. I can't read. It's an old movie, so it's kind of cheesy. It's not overly scary, but I think it's kind of interesting. It's creepy because it focuses on how kids can be kind of creepy. And I don't really have a lot of detail on why I like it. It's just something that I watch every year and that I enjoy. Maybe because I lived in the corn for a while. Next up, Shaun of the Dead. So this is more of a comedy. It says it's classified as fantasy adventure. So it says, Shaun is a 30-something loser with a dull, easy existence. When he's not working at the electronics store, he lives with his best friend Ed in a small flat on the outskirts of London. The only unpredictable element in his life is his girlfriend Liz, who wishes desperately for Shaun to grow up and be a man. When the town is inexplicably overrun with zombies, Shaun must rise to the occasion to protect both Liz and his mother. So I think this movie is a really fun take on zombie movies because it's silly. It's a bit more realistic because the zombies aren't like chasing you, etc. There's not too much detail to it. I just think it's really entertaining and it's really well done, and I've liked it since it came out. So I highly recommend that one. Now we have The Shining, another Stephen King book brought to life in the 1980s. Jack Torrance becomes winter caretaker at the isolated Overlook Hotel in Colorado, hoping to cure his writer's block. He settles in along with his wife Wendy and his son Danny, who is plagued by psychic premonitions. As Jack's writing goes nowhere and Danny's visions become more disturbing, Jack discovers the hotel's dark secrets and begins to unravel into a homicidal maniac hell-bent on terrorizing his family. So I saw this movie back when I was in middle school, and Here's Johnny scene really got me. I really like the book, and so I rewatched the movie, and it's really nice. I will say, like, it's nice that it just slowly builds up the creep factor. It's not immediately like, oh, this place is haunted. It's just like little things keep happening until it goes over the top. I think this is a classic horror movie that even if you haven't seen it, you know something about it, whether it's the twins, the bloody hallway, any of those things. So this is obviously on my list because it's great. Next up is the entire series of Scream movies. So I'm not going to read a synopsis of just one because I feel like there's a better way to sum all of it up, which I found here. So Wes Craven reinvented and revitalized the slasher horror genre with this modern horror classic, which manages to be funny, clever, and scary. As a fright-masked knife maniac stalks high school students in middle-class suburbia, Craven is happy to provide both tension and self-parody as the body count mounts, but the victims aren't always the ones you'd expect. So this entire series I really enjoy because it takes every trope from a horror movie and makes it a joke. Obviously it is still a horror movie, it is still a slasher movie, so all those tropes happen, but in a way that's poking fun at it. They're really great. I think one of my favorite things about the movies is the one character, Randy, who is constantly telling people the entire time through the movie, don't do this, haven't you seen a horror movie, this is what's happened, and then it happens, like, don't have sex because whoever has sex dies, etc. And it's just really nice, like, breaking the fourth wall kind of thing. So those movies, I think there's 4 of them. Yeah, there's 4 of them. They're all really great, and I highly recommend watching them over and over again. The next movie is an oldie, but one of my favorites. It's called 13 Ghosts. I guess it is a remake movie, but it is about a family that inherits a spectacular old house from an eccentric uncle. I think in the remake it's not an old house, but nonetheless, there's just one problem. The house seems to have a dangerous agenda all of its own. Trapped in their new home by strangely shifting walls, the family encounters powerful and vengeful entities that threaten to annihilate anyone in their path. This movie has some well-known actors. It has Tony Shalhoub, it has Matthew Lillard, and it has what's Shannon Elizabeth? I think that's her name. Yes, Shannon Elizabeth from the American Pie series, if you weren't sure. I think this movie came out, is it in 2001? So it is very old. It's old enough to graduate high school. Whew. But I really like it because it is nothing like any other ghost movie you've ever seen. It's a very interesting concept. It keeps your attention the entire time. I wouldn't say there are a ton of jump scares, which is nice because movies that rely too heavily on jump scares get a little old. Look at you, scary stories to tell in the dark. I just watched this again yesterday. I wanted to rewatch all of these to make sure they were still my favorites. A few of them fell off the list, which is what I'm working with. Yeah, I just really like that movie. I feel like not too many people are aware of it, or if they are aware of it, they've forgotten about it, so I like to bring attention to it. And I'm not sure if it's streaming anywhere, but I would check it out if you can. The final movie on my list is Cabin Fever. This is another horror comedy movie. I'm not quite sure if people realized that it wasn't meant to be a comedy when it came out, but it is really, really funny. Bert, a college student vacationing with friends in the mountains, mistakenly shoots a local man with a skin infection while hunting in the woods. Panicking, he abandons the scene and leaves the man for dead. When the man stumbles into a reservoir, he infects the water supply, and soon one of Bert's friends becomes infected. The friends struggle to stop the contagious flesh-eating disease while on the run from a group of ornery backwoods locals out for revenge. I loved this movie the moment I saw it. First of all, one of my favorite things is the crazy German Shepherd named Dr. Mambo. Fantastic. I think it's a nice twist on horror because there's not a typical monster. There's no origin for the disease. It's cheesy, it's funny. I think it was really well filmed and the acting was really great. This is another movie that I think a lot of people have forgotten about. I think it got quite a bit of attention at its time, but it was like 2002, so it's been a while. But it will always be one of my favorites, and I definitely recommend checking it out. Before I end this video, I want to talk about a couple movies that I removed from my list that used to be favorites. The first one on the reject list was Paranormal Activity. I remembered liking it at the time because I saw it when it came out. I rewatched it and found it incredibly boring and honestly just really dated. I do remember liking the second one or the third one. Maybe the second and the third one better. But I can't remember because it's been a while since I've seen them. So that one definitely got booted off the list. The next one that got booted off the list is The Woman in Black. I actually do like this movie, but it relies on jump scares way too much. The acting was really good, the filming was really good. I liked the story. I love a classic ghost story, but I just got tired of the crows constantly scaring the shit out of me. It was a little overdone. Insidious is another movie that got booted off the list. I remember really liking how it was done when I watched it. I rewatched it, and something that really irritated me was the constant baby crying. I know that it was important to the story, but babies crying is like nails on a chalkboard for me. So to hear a baby screaming every few minutes in every scene was just a bit much. I ended up turning it off like 20 minutes into it because I just didn't want to listen to it anymore. If that's not a problem for you, I do recommend checking that movie out because I remember it being very good. It's just nothing that I can watch anymore. Silent Hill used to be another movie I really liked. I feel like the costuming and the monsters was really nice, but the movie itself was kind of slow, kind of boring. It's one of those things that You don't want to waste that much time of your life on something that's not excellent. I'm looking at you, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. That brings me to that movie. I wanted to see it so bad, as those books were such a huge part of my childhood. I read them over and over and over again. I loved them. I haven't read them in a very long time, but I was excited when they finally announced that this movie was done, because they've been working on this screenplay for years. So I finally get around to seeing it. I get Eric to take me so graciously, even though he didn't really want to see it. I almost fell asleep. I was so bored I almost fell asleep. It was so boring. The plot made little to no sense sometimes. It jumped around. They weren't consistent. Is it this? Is it that? I don't know what's happening. The acting for the monsters, as well as the costuming for the monsters, was so good. I'm so disappointed that they had such little screen time. I'm so disappointed that their stories weren't told a little better. The acting in the entire movie was really good. The kid actors were good. The adult actors were good. It was all good, but I feel like the story itself was just pieced together. Like, too many people have different ideas and they just mushed it together just to get the movie out. And I really wish they wouldn't have. So, 5 stars for the costuming and the acting. 0 stars for the plot. I don't know, like a 2.5, I guess, is what I would give it. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, because you have a lot more Halloween videos coming, and I will see you in the next one.